A lion is eating your dinner. You can hear its teeth cracking bone. You can smell blood beneath the dust, and you are waiting for it to leave. You have no spear, you have no bow, you have no metal blade, you have a sharp stone, a few nervous companions, and a stomach that cannot wait forever. This does not look heroic, it looks desperate. But desperation is not the whole story. For decades, human origins had a favorite hero, the mighty hunter. He chased animals across open grassland. He brought meat back to camp. He fed a growing brain. Then archaeologists looked closer at the bones. Some carried stone tool cuts. Others carried carnivore tooth marks. Sometimes both appeared together. That created an uncomfortable possibility. Your ancestors may not have killed dinner. They may have stolen it. But what does stealing mean here? Not sneaking toward an abandoned skeleton. Not licking marrow from useless scraps. That is passive scavenging, a fancy term for arriving last. There was another option, confrontational scavenging. That means taking food from another predator. Lions do it, hyenas do it, wolves do it, even eagles do it. The scientific word is kleptoparasitism, a complicated name for organized theft. It sounds like the weaker strategy. It was anything but weak. A fresh carcass attracts everything nearby. Vultures circle above it. Hyenas hear the feeding noise. Jackals smell it downwind. Big cats may return without warning. The food is valuable. The location is obvious, and every competitor has teeth. So why risk approaching at all? Because one carcass could change your week. Muscle offered dense calories. Organs offered concentrated nutrients. Bones protected fat-rich marrow. The skull guarded an energy-packed brain. Plants still mattered enormously. Roots, fruits, seeds, and leaves mattered. But animal tissue offered something different, a large reward in one place. No long chase required, no dangerous capture required. Another animal had already done that work. In 2025, Anna Mateos and 8 colleagues revisited this idea. Their review appeared in the Journal of Human Evolution. They used optimal foraging theory. That means comparing rewards against costs. How much energy enters your body? How much energy did obtaining it require? Their conclusion challenged an old assumption. Scavenging was not merely an emergency behavior. It could be efficient, it could be reliable, and it could exist beside hunting. Carrion was not always randomly scattered. Predators created it repeatedly. Seasonal deaths created it repeatedly. Droughts created it repeatedly. Migration routes concentrated animals. Water sources concentrated animals. The landscape produced patterns. A smart scavenger could learn them. Your ancestors did not need a map. They needed memory. They needed patience. They needed to read other animals. Vultures became moving signals. Hyena calls became location clues. Predator tracks became warnings. The entire grassland carried information, but bones cannot record patience. They cannot preserve a nervous glance. They cannot preserve a shouted warning. So archaeologists study damage. That science is called taphonomy. It means reconstructing what happened after death. A cut across a muscle attachment matters. A hammerstone scar matters. A tooth pit matters. Even the order of those marks matters. Imagine a lion eats first. It removes the easiest flesh. Then a hominin arrives later. Stone cuts should cluster around leftovers. Now reverse the sequence. A hominin reaches a fresh carcass first. Cuts appear across meat-rich areas. Carnivores may chew discarded bones afterward. Same bones, different story. The oldest possible chapter comes from Ethiopia. In 2010, Shannon McFerrin's team reported 2 marked bones. They came from Dakika. Their age was more than 3.39 million years. One came from a large hoofed animal. The other came from a smaller one. The team identified cutting and percussion marks. Percussion means striking bone for marrow. This was astonishingly early. It predated the oldest known Oldowan tools. Oldowan means simple flakes and stone cores. But the Dakika claim remains debated. No stone tools were found beside those bones. Trampling can sometimes mimic cut marks. Only 2 specimens carried the argument. So the evidence opens a door. It does not settle the room. A clearer pattern appears later, around 2 million years ago, at Kengera South in Kenya. In 2013, Joseph Ferraro and colleagues published 3 assemblages. An assemblage is a group of remains found together. These layers formed across hundreds or thousands of years. The pattern kept repeating. Hominins processed numerous small hoofed animals. Many carcasses were relatively complete. They also reached larger animals occasionally. This was not one lucky afternoon. It was persistent carnivory. That means animal foods entered life repeatedly. But here comes the frustrating part. A complete carcass does not reveal its killer. Your ancestor might have hunted it. The animal might have died accidentally, or a group might have displaced a predator. Early access proves fresh meat. It does not automatically prove hunting. The same problem appears at Olduvai Gorge. The most famous site is F. Elduvai years ago. It dates to roughly 1.84 million years ago. Thousands of bones and stone artifacts accumulated there. For years, researchers debated their sequence. Did carnivores feed first? Did hominins arrive afterward? Or did hominins control the carcasses early? In 2006, Manuel Dominguez Rodrigo and Rebecca Barba re-examined the bones. They compared tooth pits and percussion damage. Some supposed tooth marks were not tooth marks. Chemical processes had altered the surfaces. Their conclusion was direct. Hominins reached fleshed carcasses early. They transported them. They processed them. Then carnivores often modified the remains later. That weakened the passive scavenger story. But it did not erase scavenging. It changed the kind of scavenging possible. Your ancestors were not necessarily waiting politely. They may have been taking control. What would that actually require? Picture the savanna at midday. Heat shimmers above pale grass. A small antelope lies beneath an acacia. A big cat crouches beside it. Your group watches from a distance. Nobody has claws. Nobody has killing teeth. The sharpest object is a stone flake, yet the cat has a problem. It is alone. Your group is not. One person throws a rock. Another raises both arms. Someone screams from the side. Dust fills the air. The cat hesitates. That hesitation is everything. You do not need to defeat it. You only need to change its calculation. The carcass is valuable. But an injured predator cannot hunt. A large noisy group raises the risk. The cat backs away, maybe for 10 seconds, maybe for 1 minute. That is enough. Stone flakes open the hide. Hands remove the richest organs. Limbs are separated quickly. Useful pieces leave the scene. Nobody eats slowly. Nobody celebrates. The predator is still watching. This scene is plausible. It is not directly preserved. Bones cannot show shouting. They cannot show formation or courage, but they can show early access. And early access changes the power balance. In 2021, Dominguez Rodrigo's team tested 3 Olduvai sites. FLK, Zinj, DS, and PTK. All were about 1.84 million years old. The team studied cut mark locations. Then they compared them with experiments. Some experiments used complete carcasses. Others used leftovers from lion kills. Machine learning models separated the patterns. Machine learning means software finding repeated differences. The archaeological bones matched primary access. That means hominins reached substantial flesh early. At FLK Zinj, one model gave a 91% match. Other models reached the same general conclusion. These hominins were not habitual latecomers. They occupied the carnivore guild. That means they competed inside the meat economy. Yet even this does not crown them pure hunters. That old argument keeps demanding one identity: hunter or scavenger, predator or prey. But nature rarely respects clean categories. In May 2026, Francis Forrest and colleagues added new evidence. Their study appeared in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. They analyzed FWJJ-80 at Kobe Fora, Kenya. The site dates to about 1.6 million years ago. It preserves butchered animals beside early Homo fossils. More than 1,000 bone specimens were examined. The pattern showed systematic carcass processing. Hominins reached fleshed remains early. They also broke bones for marrow. Then the researchers compared older sites: Kenora South, FLK Zinj, other Kobe Fora contexts. Different places, different environments, nearly 500,000 years. Yet the foraging pattern remained remarkably stable. Early Homo was not using one trick. It was using a flexible system. Small carcasses could be acquired whole. Large carcasses could be processed selectively. Fresh meat was taken when available. Marrow was extracted when valuable. Hunting and scavenging could overlap. And that is the real twist. Scavenging was not the opposite of becoming human. It may have trained the exact abilities humans needed. You had to monitor other species. You had to remember productive locations. You had to judge danger quickly. You had to carry cutting stones beforehand. You had to coordinate with companions. You had to divide a disappearing resource. The carcass created a deadline. Predators might return. Heat would spoil tissue. Competitors would notice vultures. Speed mattered. Trust mattered. Communication mattered. Scavenging was not passive. It was time-sensitive problem-solving. The word leftovers hides that reality. Modern leftovers wait inside refrigerators. Ancient leftovers fought back. They came guarded by claws. They carried infection risks. They disappeared within hours. They forced decisions under pressure. A lone hominin had almost no leverage. A coordinated group had options. That difference mattered. Not because scavenging magically created language. Not because one carcass built a larger brain. Evolution is never that tidy, but repeated scavenging rewarded useful behavior, awareness, cooperation, planning, tool use, dietary flexibility. Those behaviors also supported hunting later. So the first stolen meals were not failures. They were opportunities captured. That may be the deepest human pattern. Your species rarely survives through purity. It survives through combinations, plants and meat, hunting and gathering, creation and reuse, strength and cooperation. Even today, intelligence often looks unheroic. It looks like noticing what others ignore. It looks like using existing resources. It looks like changing strategy quickly. You are taught to admire the person who starts everything. The inventor, the hunter, the lone genius. But your ancestors inherited no empty world. Predators were already hunting. Vultures were already searching. Seasons were already moving animals. The advantage came from reading those systems, then bending them. That does not make your ancestors weak. It makes them observant. The archaeological record cannot tell one simple story. Some carcasses were probably hunted. Some were probably found. Some may have been stolen. The proportions changed across time and place. The evidence supports flexibility, not a single permanent identity. So the old question was too small. Were your ancestors hunters or scavengers? They were whatever kept the group alive. Sometimes that meant chasing. Sometimes that meant waiting. Sometimes that meant walking toward danger, with nothing but stone and numbers. A lion is eating your dinner, but only until your ancestors decide it is theirs.